All right, guys, we're live. We're watching right now as Hurricane Irma footage in Puerto Rico is coming in. This is what's going on. This is a highly dangerous hurricane, obviously, and we're just going to kind of sit here and watch and comment on it. I got Jake in here with me. We're doing some editing, and we decided to come in here and check this out and view it live or stream it live for our viewers.
Hey guys, yeah, looking at this, this is insane. Look at the amount of just power that's blowing through this place. We saw a overhead video earlier of the eye of the hurricane of Irma going over and being larger than some islands that it was passing over there, this is just insane, blowing over buses. This is some live footage.
This is in Puerto Rico.
And
man, you know, in those small islands like that, this pretty much covers their entire island and just completely engulfs the entire thing. It looks like they're trying to come together to save people out of this bus right here, or whatever they may be doing.
Wow, this reminds me of the Philippines. I grew up in the Philippines, and we were hit by typhoons, hurricanes, quite often over there. And I've never seen something as powerful as this. They have the tropical season and the dry season, and constantly hurricanes would come in, and people in island locations like this, I'm sure they're used to wet tropical hurricane season, but when you just look at the sheer force of what they're trying to run across this little street here, I'm sure this is a very it's a spectacle, really. Irma is classified as a Category 5 hurricane at the moment as it's hitting Puerto Rico. I've heard some estimates say that it could possibly grow to a Category 6. Something significant about Irma is that there was no wind shear or a wind that was coming, kind of going at a counterclockwise motion that would have taken strength out of the hurricane. So it really kind of is approaching these islands unchallenged, and so the power that it's able to continue to grow and get stronger, it's unchallenged. And of course, this is on the heels of Hurricane Harvey, which devastated Texas. Now, the projected direction of Hurricane Irma is going to be hitting the Florida Keys and the islands around that area. I did see that there was possibly a cold front of air coming down that would help push this hurricane off up north into the Atlantic, so that it very possibly might miss Florida, but it's definitely not missing Puerto Rico right now. Just look at this.
Yeah, this is, from what I understand, is the strongest hurricane that this area has ever seen, and it's coming straight for Florida. Obviously, we've seen the projected paths to hit South Florida, and really it's large enough to continue to reach the entire state of Florida, which Florida is a pretty big state, but it's not, it's right there, and it's just so big, the width of this hurricane and the power, and supposedly there's another hurricane coming behind it as well. And so we definitely need to be in prayer for these people. This is not something that we normally do. We normally don't stream stuff like this, but this is something historic that's happening, that many people, millions, thousands, millions maybe, could possibly die from this hurricane. And there's so many people in Florida right now that have not been able to get water, haven't been able to get gas. They've opened the toll roads so that people can leave the state uninterrupted. But we've heard from people that live in the area that they absolutely cannot get gas, they cannot get water, they cannot get food. They're having problems getting out of their, just getting out of town in general. So we have millions of people trapped in this area, and this is going right over all these islands: Cuba, Puerto Rico, Jamaica. I mean, you name it. All these islands are getting hammered right now.
whenever you look at kind of what's needed to survive during a hurricane like this, you can very easily see that you will not be able to travel any amount of distance. This guy can barely walk across the street without getting blown down. People who might be isolated, or people who don't have resources stored away, don't have food put away. Really, there's a danger of just, how are you going to get your basic needs met, especially in weather like this. And whenever a hurricane comes in and it takes out the infrastructure, it takes out the ability of a government to step in and help its community. It really leaves people out to dry. People have to figure out how to survive on their own. So it can be a very scary situation. These people are having to rescue people in this bus, and they're the only ones there to help. So it's really a time for people, their neighbors, to come to band together and step in and actually be heroic. Just look at this. They're making a chain across the street just to reach people in this bus. And this is just some footage of Puerto Rico. I'm sure there's many other instances of buses and cars and people in very dangerous situations.
Absolutely horrifying. I've been involved in a hurricane once myself when I lived in Texas, and it was obviously, by the time it got, I lived, west of South Padre Island, and we never obviously did the experience of this is way more intense than what we experienced there. And I can only imagine these people have no way of getting out. This isn't like a state where they can just drive up a couple states or drive in west. These people are stuck on this island, and this whole hurricane is engulfing the entire island. You can see these guys almost blowing away. This bus is scooted around. People are trying to get out.
Now these winds are blowing in at over 180 miles an hour is what's reported. That's kind of the area that a Category 5. I saw that there were measured gusts up to 220 miles per hour. This is just insane. The impressive just power of nature. In some projected estimates, it looks like the hurricane may decrease strength to a Category 4 before it gets anywhere near the Florida Keys. Now, something interesting about this particular storm is during the solar eclipse that happened just a few weeks ago, just a few days ago, that solar eclipse crossed over top of the Atlantic Ocean in the very areas that Harvey, then Irma, and also Hurricane Juan were forming. It's tropical storm right now, but this was just a tropical storm whenever the solar eclipse passed over top of it, and it also passed over Harvey. And I'm wondering if there's any correlation between the solar eclipse and that stark temperature change that we felt whenever we were looking up during that point of totality. You could feel the temperature drop almost 10 degrees in some places. I am just curious to see if that had any influence on the power of these storms, somehow supercharging them because of that very quick fluctuation. But we do see these hurricanes following directly in the heels of the Great American Eclipse. And right now, battering Puerto Rico, battering some U.S. territories there the Mexican Gulf and the Atlantic.
Yeah, over 3.4 million people in this territory. And I'm not sure that, even though it's a U.S. territory, I am not 100% sure that FEMA nor any other organization, United States organization, is preparing for this. And if there are, I haven't seen anything, any word of it. And it looks like it may just be north of Jamaica as of now. We see it passing through Puerto Rico. And it looks like it will hit parts of Cuba as it continues. And I'm not sure the path it's taken. It looks like as it goes west, once it hits Cuba, it takes a northern path up towards Florida. And obviously, if it continued west towards New Orleans and towards Texas, it could be even more devastating for the area that has already been hit.
Now, Irma has been recorded as being one of the most powerful hurricanes ever by wind speed. And right now it is still categorized as a Category 5. And that means it's sustaining wind speeds up to 185 miles per hour, with some gusts going over 200 miles per hour. And this is just insane watching this live.
And as I said before, as it reaches Florida, there are people that are not able to evacuate. And we have in Florida, there is so many trailer park homes that they will completely devastate. A Category 5 will strip the roof, the siding, everything completely off your house. This is not the winds are heavy. I mean, this wind blew this bus over I don't even know how many tons, at least 1 ton bus, completely flipped it on its side, and it looks like it's rocking it violently at this point while they're trying to get people to evacuate this bus. And if this hits Miami, hits all these ports, and really everywhere on that west coast, and it looks like it's coming up north, so it's going to hit not only the west coast of Florida, but also the east coast. And I mean, the worst thing about Puerto Rico, of this hitting Puerto Rico, it is literally engulfing the entire island of Puerto Rico. And so we are going to, if this continues, we're going to come back with more coverage. I'm going to see what else we can find on this while we're talking about it, and see if there's any other videos right now. As we continue to look for other footage, there's other footage of this hurricane that tracks the hurricane. We're going to be coming back to this and see what happens, but there is complete destruction over there. We need to be very much in prayer for these areas, because really that's the kind of the only hope that they have right now. I mean, there's no hope for rescue at this point for those people that are there. There's no one can get in to save them at this point. There's nobody's going to be coming in a boat, or nobody's going to be coming in an airplane. These people are stuck in this location for who knows how long.
Yeah, we're pulling up some. BuzzFeed has a live video feed going on, and very interesting. Just look at the size of this hurricane. Now, this is not the largest hurricane, but in terms of wind speed It is one of the strongest in terms of wind speed that has ever been recorded. It does look like the hurricane is going to track off to the east a bit. We see a cold front in some reports coming down that will push it possibly out of the path of Florida. But it is definitely not missing Puerto Rico at this moment. Just sheer destruction there. Now, all communication with Barbuda, which is a small island that the hurricane has just recently gone over, has been cut. And all communication with Barbuda has been completely cut off since the storm began. So we don't even know how people are doing in these small island communities. Can only imagine if there's been any serious injuries and what would people be doing, because there's no way that emergency vehicles, helicopters, or boats could reach these communities in the midst of this hurricane. So people are pretty much on their own.
And according to one report, the hurricane path has shifted slightly, but still looks like it will entirely engulf all of Florida. And would the shift head up towards the East Coast rather than heading towards the Gulf of Mexico? And if that's the case, and it continues to pick up speed, continues to stay, it looks like by the time it reaches the end of Florida, it will be a Category 3, which is still very powerful. But as it hits Florida, it will be a Category 5, and then up to the top towards the Panhandle will turn into a Category 3. So hopefully by the time it reaches the rest of the East Coast, it doesn't pick up power at this point, and we're going to watch and see kind of what it does, and if it picks up power and continues to increase in magnitude, or if it dwindles down. And still, even at a Category 3, you still have wind speeds that are, up in the 100+ mile per hour. And Category 5, obviously, you have speeds that are well over 140, 150, 160, 170 miles an hour. And like we said, this will literally take the siding off your house. It can tear the roof off and tear down a complete house. And obviously, with trailer parks, or a very high number of trailer parks in Florida, it will completely devastate entire parks. So, and the bad thing about Florida, Jake, is there's a lot of elderly people in Florida right now, and there are people that cannot evacuate, cannot even get gas because everything's so overrun. So there's a big danger there of a lot of people losing their lives.
Now, later today, the storm's eye will be passing over the Virgin Islands, and something interesting that I saw was plane tickets coming out of Florida. Plane tickets to leave Florida are actually skyrocketing in price. Just it's almost like they want to keep people there, which is tragic. And we saw the price gouging in Houston during the Hurricane Harvey. Just rampage. We saw that gas prices were being gouged and raised to exorbitant amounts. It was costing tons of money just to buy water and supplies. People trying to make a buck off of this natural disaster, and we even see that with Hurricane Irma approaching Florida. The plane tickets are going through the roof. Very, very troubling.
Right, and we saw the price gouge on gasoline. I know here, even in Indiana, where there is absolutely no reason for price gouging to increase, we have this. Of course, the oil companies make billions upon billions of dollars, and a one hurricane, I guess, hurts them so bad because they can't have their tankers out. They can't have, there's a bunch of different issues that they would give to this, but you would think the billions upon billions of dollars that they've made in the past would allow some type of grace for them to feel sorry for people in this time instead of gouging them. But we know that money never sleeps. These people are evil and wicked, and I hate to say that, and I know a lot of news companies won't say this, and a lot of places won't, but I will. These people only care about money. They don't care about your well-being. And the airline companies are the same way. They're going to gouge any way they can to make the extra dollar. And that's just the way the world turns. I mean, they're not looking out for the best interests of people. They're looking out to make more money off of this. Just like we saw in the hurricane in Houston, we saw people selling cartons of water for $45 a piece to people that were refugees that are trying to get out of that area. $45 cartons of water. So trying to make a buck off of this thing. And some people, that's the way some people think. And obviously that's the way oil companies are going to think. And right now, just wait until gas will increase even more after this hurricane for any given reason that they would like to see, you know, that you would.
And we see that even across all of the continental United States, with all of these disasters ongoing, at least here locally, we've seen a rise in gas prices, and all across the United States as a whole, we see gas prices going up, and often this is something that always follows natural disasters. We see the forest fires raging across the West Coast. Of course, we see Hurricane Irma closing in on Florida. Now, Florida and Puerto Rico have already declared states of emergency, but we don't see Hurricane Irma hitting land in Florida until at least Saturday at 8 a.m. That's when the epicenter of this storm will be hitting Florida. So for those of you who are in Florida, you have until Saturday to prepare. Friday evening till the worst parts of the storm start to get close. And we're just going to have to watch this and see what category it ends up whenever it makes landfall. But we also see something also troubling is the confiscation of arms and ammo in different U.S. territories that are in the path of Hurricane Irma. We see that they are going and collecting guns and ammo from people during this state of emergency, and that's something very troubling, because if this is a regular thing, these natural disasters coming to the continental United States, if they're going to start implementing gun confiscations and restrictions, then there could be an agenda to that. Now, we do see that there's been a temporary law reinstated in Florida allowing for the concealed carry of weapons without licensing. Now, this seems to be in the best interest of people. We see a lot of looting going on during these natural disasters, people taking advantage of the lack of government resources, the lack of police help forces, and people, the community protectors are going to be completely burdened by the relief effort. And so we see in Florida that there has been temporary concealed carry licensing legislation allowing people to carry their weapons on them in order for home protection, self-preservation. But also, along with these natural disasters, the type of evil it brings out in humanity, of people who want to take advantage of just the wasteland and go looting and seek to take advantage of other people who wouldn't be able to call for help. It's a very dangerous situation, both because of the hurricane and because of other people willing to take advantage of the lack of social infrastructure.
Right, and we saw that with this in New Orleans as well. After the hurricane, people were calling for donations that had nothing to do with relief, trying to get people to donate their money to them. And then we see just in the news yesterday, the Red Cross was trying to prevent people that were actually coming to bring food to help the victims that would not allow it. And we know that Red Cross, unfortunately, I hate to say this about them, but their executive makes billions of dollars a small portion of what you would donate to them actually goes towards the help. I know that there are other organizations out there that are helping. You know, a close friend of mine from New Orleans has actually gone to help relieve, brought, you know, van loads of food and different things like that. But there's also like I believe it's the Southern Baptist organization that actually, as soon as a thing hits, they mobilize to these areas. So there are other organizations besides Red Cross, but make sure you look into them if you are planning on donating, because there have been millions of dollars worth of scammers taking millions of dollars from people to do this stuff. And it's horrifying that people would do that, but there are looter crews already in place. We saw in New Orleans after the hurricane, there were more murders during that time than, you know, in the whole history of New Orleans. There were people getting 30-day murders. There were so many people in prison, in jail, waiting trial, that they had to give people 30-day murder charges, where they only spent 30 days in jail for a murder charge because they could not keep up with all the cases. And so we saw, and obviously crime in New Orleans is still outrageous, but back then it was even worse. So we're seeing a lot of looters in Houston. We're seeing people prepare for looting in Florida already, and it's just horrifying.
Now, I'd like to look at kind of the different scales. We have the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, and this kind of explains the different intensities of hurricanes and what we can expect with the different categories. Now, with a category 1, we are looking at 74 to 95 miles per hour of wind, minor damage to properties. This is just like roof damage. At category 2, we see winds ranging from 96 to 110 miles an hour. Now, this is significant damage with increased threat to humans, but still, it's not a category 3. We see in a category 3 that we have 111 to 130 miles per hour. And right now we're pulling up some footage of some tornadoes, and the speeds we're seeing in Hurricane Irma right now is comparative to a tornado, although instead of just a few thousand feet, imagine miles upon miles experiencing this wind speed at a given time. Now, for a category 4 hurricane, we have speeds from 130 miles per hour to 155. In a category 4, this is where
small town
houses and shopping centers are irreparably damaged. And right now, Hurricane Irma, being at a wind speed of 155 miles plus, recorded 180 miles plus, is what Hurricane Irma is at right now. This would be comparable to what we're seeing right now with this tornado. Just sheer destruction.
I'm looking for more area live videos that are going on right now. We have obviously the news in the area that's going on, but unless you understand that language, I don't think you're going to be able to.
Thomas right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over there right now, and looks like a lot of the live videos are going dead. Here's an area that has been already damaged by this, and I know you guys can't see this right now, but the whole area is completely devastated. And it's just
working.
And I'm just wondering how many people this is actually going to be affecting. I mean, this is
you know, are you able to screen share that, John?
I'm trying to. I'm having issues. It looks like people's live streams are going in and out, which is expected because of the extreme wind, and it's absolutely I can only imagine what what kind of stuff we're dealing with here. Live streams are going in and out. Here's the one here that I'll try to share with you guys. I'm gonna turn it down before I know that's probably busting your guys' ears here, and I apologize for that. I'll send this to you, Jake, so you can put it on your screen over there. Wow. There you go. Share that one. That one right here. This one is this is showing the area that has just passed over, so it's still in kind of full devastation at this point. And I see it. And look at that wind.
Now, John, if you were in a location that was experiencing this power, what would your course of action be? I mean, what would you even do? Where would you start?
Well, I mean, I can imagine that if that happened at my house and I'm in a location such as this, I mean, I would pray. I would fall on my face and pray, because really, what other option do you have at this point? Pray and try to help as many people as you can that are around you. I would think that if people, let me see if we can find something out. Looks like their video stream got cut as well. But you can imagine if this kind of stuff is going on around you, you would see just such horrible things. I mean, your family, for one, you'd have to really just be in prayer.
I know, like, for example, you have animals that you care for, and if a storm of this proportion hit and you didn't have much of a notice, really, you would just have to, try to keep your family safe. You wouldn't even be able to think about your animals outside or how to keep them from experiencing just the power of this storm. I mean, I guess you could bring all your sheep inside your house, but I don't know how well that would work out for you. But I mean, I can only imagine what people are going through here.
Yeah, and it's one thing to contemplate what we would do, but it's another thing to be a part of it. And I know that with my sheep, I mean, they would have to fly. I mean, what else could you do really at that point? You can't bring them into your shelter. Rounding them up in this kind of storm would be almost impossible. I mean, you can only do what you can do and save what you could save in this. But I would imagine that if everybody, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this that would not agree with me when I say this, but if there were as many people that were in Florida, for instance, coming together in prayer, and rather than out, scrambling to get the last bit of water, which I think is important to prepare always anyway. I think there's nothing wrong with being prepared in any given situation. But a lot of people have waited to the last minute, and now it's kind of every man for himself. And I would say that one of the best things you can do is be prepared in the moment if you can. I mean, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of very inexpensive ways to be prepared and to continue preparing. And beans, rice, etc. is important. Water is important. But if you're in a situation where your whole entire house is being blown down, what do you do? I mean, in an island situation, where can you go? Because if flooding takes place, there's really nothing that you can do except for hope and pray. And I know a lot of people would never want to acknowledge that way or that idea, but that is the only way that you would get any kind of relief, I would imagine, from that.
Now, I
situation.
know Hurricane Harvey hit Beaumont, Texas, where we were just in a conference down there. We got to know a lot of people who were local to that area, people who were able to come to that conference. We knew the faces of many people who were losing their homes and going through this trial, and our hearts reach out to you guys. You know, that just like John said, you know, there is really very little you can do whenever it's either pick up your bags and get to safety, or try to hold it out. But if you try to stick around, you very likely can risk your life, and these are very dangerous situations.
Yeah, we're trying to find them right now. I'm trying to find other live videos. Like I said, as the hurricane passes through the area, we're seeing less and less dots on the screen, which indicates that most likely their communications are down in this area. And I mean, we see the news that talks about the path, and we see that, you know, as it approaches Florida, it'll lose a little bit of its power, but not much. It'll still be Category 4, I believe, at the peak of it.
Send me a link to that page you're looking at there, John. I'd like to show what you're looking at there with this map.
Right, and normally, you know, I'll give you this link, and normally at any given time on this map, when there's not a hurricane going on, you will see, you know, thousands of live videos going on at that location. And are you able to pull that up, Jake?
Yes. So we see right now that Puerto Rico is right underneath the hurricane at this moment. Now it's right in this area that we're seeing some of these live videos.
I don't think that's it.
Look at some of those surfs coming in.
The eye is a few
Here's something
kilometers
right
away.
here.
The eye is not really that much far because we're south of the eye and it's going crazy here.
There's a lady reporting from here, Jake. I'm going to send you this link. Lady reporting live from that area. And of course, she's in her house right now looking out at it, and don't think she's right in the middle of it, but she can see what's going on here.
Wow, look at the speed of that wind. Yeah, it's I know when we were growing up.
Looks like she's got her video interrupted, but it's coming in and out here. Obviously, that's to be expected.
Poor internet connection during the storm. In the Philippines, growing up, we would have school canceled if the hurricane reached a Category 2. Now, at a Category 2, we would see massive flooding just in the Philippines, and this is a regular occurrence. But in these third world countries, you see very poor irrigation, very poor drain off, and for these storms.
Williams, okay, yeah, we're back online. It's that we lost connection, and Luba Williams, we wish we could.
Now, if you were standing out in this wind, a flying piece of metal tin roof, anything could just end it very quickly. Very dangerous to be out in this type of weather with wind speeds up to 180 miles per hour. It could send wood blocks. It could send anything your way that could severely injure you, could even kill you. Now, people who are in these houses, whenever they start to lose structural integrity, the houses start to blow apart. Where do they go? They either have to get out or risk the building collapsing on them at these speeds. And so they have to eventually risk going out into the wind to find better shelter. Now, probably the worst thing you could do is stay in a vehicle. As we saw in a previous video we pulled up, A semi-truck is blown over on its side with people trying to rescue those inside of the truck. And we see that these vehicles are just being tossed about, really just like a tornado. I know we saw some footage of tornadoes a moment ago, and a hurricane at a Category 5 level is literally a wind speed equivalent of a tornado, but miles and miles
we have a lot of portable chargers, etc.
And the amount of damage a hurricane can do
about the mobile batteries
is immense. Now,
and
the categories of the hurricane,
because everyone else is
they
out.
are used only to measure the wind speed. There are a lot of other factors to take into account. I believe Hurricane Katrina got only up to either a Category 3 or 4, and yet we saw an immense amount of damage with Katrina. And we also saw that Harvey downgraded into the size of a tropical storm, yet still dumped record-breaking amounts of water on Houston. And this hurricane, right on the heels of that disaster, would completely overload the system.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about the stream breaking up. Michael, thank you. I know it's all over. Let this video be a warning for Florida. Thank you, Matt. Please say it again because people think this is a joke. Ben, yes, we noticed. They're blocking concrete. Yep, well, and now that is correct. We do have a concrete roof also. Dwight Hart, please stop trolling. Thank you.
Amén, Romelio. Gracias. Excelente México.
We're actually, the ocean is like not even like far away. You can like walk there. It's like right there. Yeah, that is lightning crashing. Wow, thank you. I and Jeffrey, Hicken, please stay safe. Please make sure your house is secured. Gracias. Tiffany Flores, the shed is okay. It's in front of the car, actually. Right there. Has the wind moved cars? Yes, it has. Kurt, thank you for watching for Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, that is lightning and also sheds crashing. Wow. Thank you, Sean. I noticed. I have to ignore them. We cannot. Okay, we have a curfew from this morning, 6 a.m. We are not allowed to be on the street until Thursday, 6 p.m. That is the curfew, and if you are caught outside, you will be arrested or fined. Thank you, Tavo. Happy, amen. Paul Dawson, watching from the UK. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Matt Harmon, I know this. It is incredibly ignorant. I think they should really take this seriously. I think there was some damage to the cars. We have the schools as refugee centers because how the island is so small, we don't really have that type of stuff. Jim, thank you. We're like in the middle. That's a big research shed. Robert, Demas, we're going to be here for like about 4 hours.
Jake, let's switch to this other video here real quick. I'm going to send this to you. This is showing where it's actually hitting at this very moment. This is an amazing show of footage here. Let me send it to you, Jake. You can pull it up on there.
Yes, we do have a flash flood warning, and the water most likely will rise. Angel B.
We'll see if it comes up
we're
anyway.
the only one streaming from Hurricane Irma. There is a new stream.
Says having trouble playing the video. It looks like they may have went out, but man, that was powerful looking footage at that point. I mean, that was completely unreal. It's still having problems there. Go ahead and switch back to the girl talking then at this point. It looks like it's cutting in and out.
This is going badly.
It looks like it's starting to reach into the Cuba area. And we went dead in Cuba. There is absolutely no live streams in Cuba right now, where there were at least 20. And now Cuba is completely dead on live streaming. Nothing at all.
Yes, that is horrible. Terrible. Hopefully, yep. Hopefully we're away from the center. But I think that was sustain.
Look at that, man. All of Cuba, nothing. Complete silence.
Andrea, thank you. Thank you so much. Michelle, you live in Tampa? Please get ready just in case. Terry Zer, yes, we will be careful about flying objects toward the windows. Ray Conway, I know. Thank you. Amen. Prayers from Florida. We are next. I am so sorry. I hope you have the best of luck with this hurricane. North Carolina.
Whatever cell phone
much.
service this lady has, I have got to sign up. I'm just flabbergasted how she is getting signal through this torrent right now. Now, I believe this live stream's coming from one of the outlying areas. It's not getting directly hit at the moment, but just wow.
Yes, we will
somehow she's still getting this live signal out.
If found outside, so we are not going
Judging by where we're watching these live videos, we can kind of see the path that this hurricane is taking, because as it was going through the Dominican and as it was going through Puerto Rico, there was complete deadness. I mean, there was nothing. And now we went through the Dominican, there was some, and then now this is one of the only streams available in the Dominican right now. And now as it's hitting Cuba, we see nothing, complete dead silence from the live streams.
And Sharon in New York, thank you so much.
Yeah, that whole area.
We are having a whole difficult time. Most of the places are just locked down with wood and everything.
Off the map right now.
What service we got? I really have no idea. It's sad what people do. Climate change and stuff. Roman Bellic, that is so true. Climate change is extremely. Come on, two tropical storms and a hurricane all in the same time. This is crazy. Thank you, Rabia. Jose Luis, we're in St. Thomas, USVI. Thank you. Prayers from Oregon. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Prayers from Kentucky. Thank you. Chaseport, yes. It's just getting worse. Sending good vibes from USA. Thank you. Edmund, thank you for our great coverage. Thank you so much. And Mary, yeah, we know this is our money. Good job, Rachel. I'm her daughter. Keisha, thank you so much. Jesse Joe, we do not have power. They took the current, so any accidents can't happen. Wow, Vicky, that is wow. That is just horrible. Haley, prayers from Kansas. Thank you so much. Prayers from Northern Michigan. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Michelle. Okay, that's good. That's good. Prayers from Ocala, Florida. Thank you, Tamara. Yes, I know. Ale Arroyo, I do. Yes, you chose it. Okay. Tennessee is with you. Thank you, Jenny.
Wow.
Anyways, Carolyn, we are also scared. A hug from Argentina. God protect you. Walter, thank you. Prayers from Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you, Kimberly. Brave Warriors. Thank you, Luba Williams. I can't believe you still have internet. I know. Well, thank you. Prayer from East Tennessee. Robert Smith. Wow, thank you. Prayers for all of you safety. Stay together and help each other. Much love to you all. Thanks. Eric O'Neill, the government, the police will arrest.
Where's that at, Jake, if you're seeing this?
Because they They have a
Now,
curfew.
I guess their live feed is cutting out on this video.
Yeah, everything I see in Cuba it pops up for a few seconds and then it's done.
This is a tree outside of our house that is completely bare. Andrea, thank you. Thank you so much.
De manera pues que lo que le estamos pidiendo a
Thank you so much. This is the window, and this is the other window. Glass window. But we have tape on it, and this is what's going on.
She said she has concrete ceilings, and it looks like she's got a pretty solid location. I can imagine what the houses that are not built that way, where they're at now. I mean, look at the way that wind is hitting those trees, completely bending over massive trees.
Okay, nosotros también hablamos español, no se preocupen. Hablamos español también. We speak Spanish also, so you can make any questions. I know, Diego, es mucho miedo que tenemos. Alex, prendamos velitas por todos los pobladores de las islas.
You can see how they've taped up the windows.
Okay, so I just got up on something.
In the case of something flying in and breaking the windows, they have it taped up so it'll keep it from shattering everywhere. It's a good thing to practice.
Your godson is on vacation in Punta Cana. Okay, tell him to stay safe, please. Jesse Joe, okay, Sean Piper. Thank you so much for, helping. Kimberly Steele, prayers from Tennessee. Please be safe. Thank you. Amazed by all the love from all four directions of our relatives enjoying this, inspiring us. Thank you, Lisa. Jennifer, Emma, Bulger, Hudgens. I know.
Esto está sucediendo ahora mismo. Esto es en vivo. Aquí en San Tomás, esta de los Estados Unidos, el huracán Irma.
Watching this together,
thank you so much.
We really start to realize how much we are in the end times. Absolutely.
This is live.
We saw how the Great American Eclipse kind of was a forerunner to these massive storms coming out of the Atlantic. And in fact, the path of totality crossed over top of these hurricanes.
The whole world is watching, and I'm so surprised. I feel so happy right now. I am so happy that everyone gets to see the true reality of what's really happening, and that they don't blindside it. It's really going back. Oh, wow. Saludos desde Suiza. Cuídense. Gracias. The children, we're managing it. They're doing good. They're behaving, and they're staying in one place. I hope, well, they're not really afraid, but they're good. And wow, thank you from Austin, Texas. Wow, thank you so much. I hope you guys are also okay. I heard what happened in Texas. And yes, it appears that we have survived. Friends from Alabama, thank you, Camilla. How long will Emma be here? About 4 hours or so. Michael, her, yes, we will not go outside. We got that clear. Okay, let me get down from here. Okay. Yes, that is tape on the window, so it doesn't just like crack and bust. Yes, it is. God bless them. Poland, thank you. Yes, it is very strong. It's just concrete and Jennifer, Emma, praying up for you. Yes, tape is on her window. Those car lines snapped. Yep, one of them already snapped. Edison Cruz, thank you. José Luis Escobedo, ¿qué parte están? Estamos en Charlotte, Amalie.
San Tomás, Isla Kimberly.
¿Hay mucha brisa? Sí, claro. Muchísima. Rich Lamont, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the others. Sir John Rivera from New Jersey, praying for you guys. God bless. Thank you so much. We'll hang out, rock the Spanglish. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Mucho. Martínez Blanca, el ojo del huracán aún no llega a ustedes.
Now there are multiple storms
Estamos
forming.
en una Parte crítica,
we
we're in a
have
critical part, and
Tropical
it
Storm
is
Melissa
not really working out well because
forming right behind
it is
Irma,
horrible. Like
and
water is
weather
getting into
forecasts
like
show
some of the
it is
houses, and
also
people who
expected
don't
to
have
do some
a
massive
a
damage
sturdy place to
there
live
in the Gulf
in are in
area.
real big trouble. I hope they have gotten to the refugee centers, but I hope everyone is safe, and I hope no one has had a serious impact or has died yet. Please, God help us all.
Where Irma is expected to hit in Florida is going to be roughly
This
600
Kimberly,
miles
this is
from Houston as the
This
crow
is in
flies,
USVI,
but
St.
we
Thomas.
see the
Mike, no, we are not in
massive
French town.
blow
No
to
estamos en French
infrastructure
town,
that
estamos en
Houston's taken, so a lot of resources
una
are going to be
parte
going there.
you
If
know,
Irma
cerca
does make
de
landfall
French town.
in Florida, we can see
Hello from New
that the
Jersey.
system
Thank
will
you,
be
Laura.
overloaded.
Laura Mireya. Thank you so much from Mexico. Muchas gracias desde Argentina. Gracias, Bruno. And from Brazil, thank you. Wow, so many people. Dan, you were in USVI.
John, have you seen that video with the evangelical prophet? He's an Indian guy named Sadhu Selvaraj, and he's the founder of Jesus Ministries. And in 2015, he gave a prophecy about Houston and the destruction of Houston. And I know that video has gotten a lot of attention
I really appreciate
recently.
all the support from everyone around the world. We are
Can't say that I've seen that.
Very, very interesting. He talks about
Thank you for all
some
the love, all the prayers.
different
We are
locations
so
that
glad to have
God
someone
had
who cares
earmarked
about how we feel,
as
because
for
barely anyone
judgment.
knows we exist. But
And
now
one of
I
those
see all
places
these
was
people that they know
Houston,
that we are
and
in
he
extreme
prophesied
danger, and I
that
hope
it would
that
be
they can help
flooded.
us in some way.
And
Was it this guy right here?
yes, he's an Indian evangelical.
Thank you, Kimberly.
I'll send you that video and we can split screen it here.
Sure thing.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I'm gonna put the camera on you for a second while we figure this out.
Viewers on a Relay YouTube stream. Thank you so much. Jennifer Emma. Oh,
Now we're
so
sitting
sorry
here
for the
watching
cutting out, but
these
yeah,
videos
you know,
of
this
people
hurricane is
going
getting
through
horrible.
Hurricane Irma
Jesus, yes.
right now.
Ya entró.
Really, sometimes it's difficult to put yourself
Hasta
in the shoes
coleccionamiento
of these people in these
from
disaster
Scotland.
areas.
Thank you. Prayers from Kentucky. Thank you so much.
But whenever you see kind of just the
Thank you,
way
Matt
it's
for saying it
destroying
again.
these places.
Rogelio Montesco, necesitan ayuda de algún tipo. Mantengan
Let me go ahead and
informados
mute
cuando
this live video and pull up this prophecy. Can you hear that, John?
Small voice of the Holy Spirit say,
I can. Hold on one second here.
this place would be devastated by floods. I didn't know anything about all that, So I was wondering, why? What a strange what I'm hearing.
And so this guy predicted this hurricane, I guess, Harvey, according to this. Here in a little bit, we'll find another video. Let's go back to the lady real quick, just because.
So you've been walking literally from
we can go to this.
Scarsdale at 45.
Yeah, no
all the
boats
way
and no
over
cars
here.
tried stopping or nothing. Nobody stopped and we yelled for them.
Yeah, well,
So the only thing I know about Houston is NASA. Because when I was small, I wanted to be an astronaut. So I read all about NASA.
This guy's kind of a character.
That ambition did not come to pass in the natural, but it was fulfilled in the spirit. Anyway, so the only thing I know about Houston is NASA. Everybody knows that, right? Yesterday, when I stepped out from the airplane, and as soon as my feet touched Houston airport, I heard the still small voice of the Holy Spirit say, this place will be devastated by floods.
Now, this was in 2015 that he was giving that sermon, and interesting character, I know, but who am I to judge who God can speak to and and to who he
I didn't know
can
anything
relay a
about all that,
prophetic
you know.
message through.
I was wondering,
But
what a strange what I'm hearing. I began to feel that I'm an unlucky person. Everywhere that I go, I don't seem to bring a good word of blessing. You know, I try to be a good boy, you know, by trying to make you feel good. God bless you. You'll be well, wealthy, healthy, prosperous in all your ways. I tried to do that, no? I could not. I'm sorry. But I was wondering, you know, the moment my feet touched Houston, the Houston soil, or rather the Houston dust, I heard this word. And I didn't know what to. Pastor Joseph was beside me, we were walking. I didn't tell this to anybody, just kept it to myself. And the brother who picked us from the airport, he was driving us to the hotel. And in the conversation, he mentioned about flooding in Houston. I didn't quite clearly hear what they said, you know, because I was still lost in my thoughts about what the Lord said in Costa Mesa, and then what I heard the angels say at the Los Angeles airport. I was just troubled by all that, you know. And when I reached the hotel, I was still pondering those words. What does it mean? I will devastate. He didn't use the word destroy. I clearly remember the word. God used the word devastate, not destroy. Destroy means make a complete end. Devastate means cause damage. To wake you up to think. To wake you up, devastation is a forerunner to destruction.
you know, one thing
Before
this
destruction
guy
comes, he shakes you up.
he
Come on,
did
wake up.
say
It's a shaking, devastation.
was that
So
God was saying that the land,
this morning,
the
Houston
United
flooding,
States, was worse
and a
than Sodom and
whole
Gomorrah,
bunch of articles came out.
and how the people were
Then
obstinate
I
and
saw, oh my God,
stubborn
this happened recently,
in
right?
their ways of sin.
In the month of
And
May, when there was a
always
great
we
flooding
see,
in the city. And not only that, before this great flooding, the
always we
first
see kind of
major great flooding in Houston took place
judgment coming with these natural disasters. And these are a wake-up call to God's people. Jumping back over to another live video.
Doesn't look like we're seeing much out of the area there, do we? That's pretty interesting right there.
Wow.
That's the bus video we pulled up earlier.
Thank you so much. Joy Adams, thank you so much. Thank you from
Still nothing out of Cuba.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looks like, you know, out of all we're seeing is a few things in Haiti.
We're just, you know, out here. The cars is having a bit of Wow, thank you so much, Will. I should really look into it.
You can see some of the swells going on. Now this is Hurricane Irma as it's moving over the Caribbean. Let me go ahead and mute this other video real quick. But we see here Hurricane Irma over the Caribbean.
We have decided as a committee to identify persons who would wish to ride out the storm in a safe and secure environment. Additionally, the Ministry of Public Works Technical Department remain in a state of readiness to execute post-disaster technical assessments in the aftermath of any disaster, along with key agencies such as
We're tracking as we can to see what there is in the area. This is it's amazing what we can see nowadays as opposed to what we could, years ago when this stuff was going on, because people have cell phones where they can take live footage of these events. And here's some with a little bit of flooding here. Jake, do you see this one?
A Category 4 when it makes landfall.
Yeah, here. I just sent you a video, Jake, of the aftermath of where it passed through in Puerto Rico.
Now it's just passed through this location. We can see tree limbs completely just destroyed. Look at those trees split down the middle.
Okay.
Now,
you wouldn't know Jocelyn Johnson number.
The thing that made Hurricane Harvey so deadly, so dangerous, is because we had winds coming in from the north that pushed up against it, causing that tropical storm to remain in place and hover right above the Houston area, making multiple landfalls, going into land, being pushed back out, and then returning back inland a little bit farther north. But that is why Hurricane Harvey was so damaging, is because it just remained in place above that location, continuing to dump rain over and over and over again for days.
And he won't be able to contact me. However, Jocelyn Johnson, she has a flow number, and we could try contact her. I haven't had a chance to go up there. I don't know if the roads are passable as yet, but if I get my ride back, I can. Right now, I don't have any transportation because my car is parked up at home because there are 3 electrical poles across the road which cannot be moved until a heavy equipment operator do that. So I was walking just to make sure that you guys get a view of what has happened home. And
yeah, it looks like the majority of Puerto Rico has been hit. Here's another video here of a lady, and I can't understand what she's saying. She's speaking. Most of our audience isn't going to be able to understand what she's saying.
You can see the turf, the surf, not the turf, the surf off of the coast of Puerto Rico here in this video. Very interesting. I think it would be extremely awe-inspiring to be underneath that eye when it passed over. I know we didn't get a lot of good photos or video from Barbados whenever it passed over around 3 a.m. It was still pitch black out, but we are getting a lot of interesting video feeds and live video.
Well, what's interesting though to me, Jake, is when you see this map that we're watching right now, it's showing that it's just now crossing into Puerto Rico. But as we're seeing on live streams from Puerto Rico, it looks like there's an aftermath. So it looks like this map may actually be delayed here because, I mean, we're looking at San Juan. The videos we've been watching were from the San Juan, Puerto Rico area. and the videos that we can see now, and it looks like we're seeing aftermath videos. So, and of course, there's still some high winds, like in this video right here, which I'm going to send to you. But either they're in the eye right now and they don't know it, or this is a delayed video, which I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, we do see it is starting to move up towards the Dominican Republic.
I'm going to send you this video real quick, Jake. That way you can kind of show this is what's going on currently in the eastern area of Puerto Rico at the moment. And it looks pretty rough. Those palm trees.
Look at the signs spinning around. Now, it doesn't look as severe in this video as we were seeing earlier. People having trouble to make it across the street. Here, they seem to be able to walk a bit more freely. Still a lot of wind.
Right, and it makes me wonder if these projections of when this stuff is going to hit are off, because when we see this, we see that it's pretty much either the eye of the hurricane at this moment, or it's already pretty much, you know, the majority of it's passed. And in the graphic we were showing earlier, it looks like it was just getting ready to hit this area. But like I said, we're tracking the live streams from those areas, and we see that we're seeing a lot of aftermath videos at this point. So I don't know exactly what to make of that.
That live video was interrupted there.
See what else we can find in the area here. And see, this is from the center, like kind of northeastern court, and it looks like there's not even any rain anymore in that area. And this is from the northeastern side as well, and we don't see this kind of stuff going on. So that, in my opinion, it almost has to be delayed, the map of what's showing what's happening on the radar. Here's another aftermath video I'm going to send you, Jake. Looks like the video you got going on, though, is pretty interesting as well. So either one of these videos will be good to go between.
Ahora mismo se escuchaban las planchas acá dando cantazos, pensé que eran casa de Nancy, pero la llamé y no era allá, llamé a Gualo y era allá arriba. Así que no sé a dónde va por ahí, ¿verdad? Que ya.
Estamos hablando de que, para los que no saben, en La Verde hay una pequeña urbanización.
Yeah, but with this, it's you know, it does teach us a good lesson. Always be prepared. Pray. Really, there's not a lot these people in these island communities can do other than just weather it out.
Go back to that other video, Jake, and see, because I mean, you know, I'm just looking in the area, and it doesn't look, you know, near as devastated as Houston was, or at least we're hoping that that's the case, because I know a lot of people really are worried about Florida, but there's other places getting hit at the same time. So,
oh dear.
somebody says the map is not delayed. There is not aftermath, but you know, and I understand that that's what they're saying. But as we're looking at the live videos from the area, that's not what it's showing us. And these are live videos of real people down in the location. And so for what we can see, this is what we're seeing from these people in this area. So we can believe the radar, or we can believe what's going on in the area. And obviously there's places that are hit harder in that area, but we have to actually look at what's going on, and we're looking at the live videos from the location. So, I mean, I tend to believe more of the live videos from location rather than some colorful radar that I see. So that's kind of my point of view on that. But we're going to be continuing to look into the live videos in the area. I mean, we're hoping that they're at the end of it. I mean, a lot of these videos are saying this is aftermath, and so we will see. There's another video here. It looks like that it is showing that it's passed. Is that what that was, Jake, on that last video we were just showing?
Just kind of showing the streets. This guy is driving around his city. In the Dominican Republic.
Interesting.
En el municipio.
Bueno, mientras llego allá, el que se sigue uniendo puede ir comentando mientras llego allá.
La situación, pero aquí pasa.
We're seeing in some parts where people are literally just now fully driving through the street and making their way that way. We're seeing more broadcasts popping up in the area as well.
Seconds or so, it'll be dry again.
Se acabaron las salidas por hoy.
Ha estado documentando todo lo que ha estado. Esto es un reportero innato, ¿verdad?
And there's news reporters out in the street and everything now. So I'm trying to see if I can find an updated map of the hurricane.
See, ABC's got a radar satellite feed on it.
So the only thing that I can think of is possibly that people don't know that they're getting ready to be hit even harder if that radar is correct, because from what we're seeing on this map, it doesn't look to be matching up with that radar. And am I right in saying this, Jake?
Yeah.
Either they haven't been hit with the hardest of it yet, and they've only been hit with a certain tailwind of it, or the map is incorrect.
Now, we just got a message in. They say that they are seeing us do our live feed right now, and that 2 monster solar flares happened today. They're the biggest in 20 years. When they arrive here over the next couple of days, communications will be interrupted. Tonight or tomorrow night, it is predicted that you guys will be able to see northern lights where we're at. Wow, let's see if we can find a little bit more information on that, John. These solar flares that happened just today.
Yeah, you look for that, and I will continue. I'm going to continue looking for this hurricane stuff here. And we'll see what we can find, because I think that
Well, we have spaceweatherlive.com. The strongest solar flare of solar cycle 24 erupted today at 12 UTC, and of course it was a sunspot region that took center stage. It was an X 9.33 solar flare, which is highly eruptive as well, and you can see that here on these images here, and the reports we're getting in is that communications will be interrupted, and that tonight or tomorrow night it will be predicted that we will be able to see the northern lights up here in Central America, Central United States. And wow, just an impressive CME. Now this impact is expected to later today, and it's going to arrive in the next 6 hours. Regarding the hurricane damage, the massive damage that usually comes from the east side, and it is not as bad on the west, as it unleashes hundreds of tornadoes, and that's where you see most of the damage. So we definitely always see a correlation between solar activity and these storms and earthquake activity here on Earth. There seems to always be a correlation. And another great resource I love to use is the Suspicious Observer. Now we'll see if Suspicious Observer has any info coming out today. I'm going to pull this video up here in a moment.
Estamos en vivo, muchachos. Muchas bendiciones. Buen trabajo siempre.
All right, I'm going to try to get some sound on our video over here.
Hold on 1 second, man. There's this video going on right here that this guy's kind of driving through showing the devastation. But yeah, go ahead and do that one.
All right, let's see. Are you getting any sound coming in on your end?
Should already be awake and eyes open as an X-class solar flare alert went out a few hours ago. We'll also be looking at shockwave impact watch set for later today. Changes to the hurricane forecast on YouTube. And some news. Let's get started now over at spaceweathernews.com. We'll pull 131 angstroms going right to watch for the solar flare. The event peaked a few hours ago, and even without one of the GOES satellites, we can see the rise into X-class range, confirmed on SDO's flare detector, which almost went off the charts. But luckily, it was not a long-duration event, and so while it is clear that some ejecta has released, it appears minor from this view, and CME analysis will need a few more hours for satellites to update. But hey, we've already got a CME on its way to Earth, don't we? You will remember the big burst from 2 days ago with the slightly smaller M-class solar flares, and its CME is coming right at us. Yesterday, we showed NASA's Enlil spiral forecast, and today NOAA has theirs updated as well. Virtually no difference in the forecast. Impact is about 8 to 12 hours away tonight or in the evening hours, and strong geomagnetic storms are expected, even though it should be about 10 to 20 times weaker than what it would take to totally cripple the power grids. The first alert is likely to be the shockwave impact. It'll be an observer's alert, so have those notification settings on. There is no guarantee that there isn't more coming. The largest grouping up north is still spread magnetically with little chance for mixing. I also want to note a new group incoming in case it develops further. But contrast their magnetism with the beta gamma delta magnetic fields in the southern grouping. That close-in color mix is why this spot is flaring and others are not. We'll keep watching. The flares and CMEs have driven solar proton radiation storms that are likely to continue or be boosted when the CME impacts tonight. Also, if we get any more solar flares from that sunspot. Let's come to Irma, where things look different than yesterday. Caribbean alerts are already out through the app, and the European model is now showing a bit more westward motion before yanking the wheel and driving northward towards Florida on the morning of the 11th. Set to run due north, pounding the east coast the hardest. Now, Here is where the forecasts diverge. The GFS model is showing it move north much earlier, with the eye actually missing landfall in Florida. By the morning of the 11th, the GFS model shows Jacksonville thankful to have that eye well offshore, while later that night it would be the Georgia-South Carolina border that would be directly struck. And again, we'll be updating these models every single day. Couple news notes. Those studies looking to space weather and animal anomalies are not having too difficult of a time. The first two were dynamite, and here machine debunked a piece of black hole X-ray science. Well, it took 10 days and a phone call with.
Very interesting. The correlation between the solar activity and these storms is immense. We, in watching guys like the Suspicious Observer and other people who observe solar influence on our planet, it's just fascinating to see how the sun and these coronal mass ejections affect the weather here. It affects the tectonic plate movements. Just very interesting, something very good to pay attention to. I heard it said that by paying attention upwards at the activity of the sun, people are learning more about what's coming and being able to predict better than people who are spending their time looking at seismic activity and such. Did you send me another video?
I did send you another video.
¿Verdad que cuando me levanté, esto se ve impresionante, esto es otra cosa? Bueno, los quiero, que tengan buena tarde y espero en Dios que no hayan vidas que lamentar durante el paso de este fenómeno atmosférico. Me cuidan.
And for those of you that are just joining us, we are getting live footage as we get it. At this point, we are looking at all live footage in the area. And what we are seeing is devastation. We're seeing windstorms. We're seeing rain. We're seeing flooding. But we can only get live footage as it comes from the area. And what we're seeing is interesting is we're seeing on the radar maps either seem to be delayed or they are not getting hit with the worst of it yet, because there are certain videos showing that they're in the aftermath in Puerto Rico. And what we're seeing on the radar is a different story, that they have not even been hit with the worst of it yet. So either they don't realize that they're getting ready to get hit with the worst of it, or the footage that we are seeing is correct and it is the aftermath. So we will see what happens with that. We're going to kind of try to track it for at least the next 30 minutes to see what is going on with this hurricane. And it looks like they're having delayed videos on that as well. Let's see what else we can find here. And, you know, you can only show live videos as long as people are streaming this event. And here's another video that we're seeing here. And this kind of shows, you got it going on, Jake. Here, let me send this to you real quick.
6 de septiembre, el día número 249 del año, y están que...
Here's another video right here that's going on. And so they've been hit, and then we see videos like this that really make you wonder if they've only been hit with a certain part of it or if the whole thing. So hopefully we're going to see what happens. Thankfully, we can actually view these live videos of this where we couldn't do this years ago. There's live streaming maps where we can see who was all live streaming in the area that we can see. And this is what we're seeing. So we're just reporting what we're seeing from the live footage on the ground, people being there.
La cabrón.
I don't know what this guy's laughing about, but
Again.
but this is where we're seeing this video is the video we're seeing with this is on the northeastern side of the coast, and this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing. So it looks like I said, I mean, there's videos, I'm looking at videos here where it's sunshine outside, so I don't really know what to make of the map. Jake, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, whether or not this does make landfall in Florida is to be foreseen, but it's definitely passing over these island nations. The Dominican Republic, the Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands are going to be hit around 3 p.m. is what was forecasted, is when it's going to start really heavy hitting the Virgin Islands. We see, you know, the real damage comes whenever these storms get pushed back by winds that are coming in from the north, heading southward, that kind of hold the storm in place over top of these locations. That's exactly what happened to Harvey, and what made Hurricane Harvey so devastating to Houston is it was really kept from just blowing on through. And we are seeing some aftermath videos of places that have gone through the storm already. There still hasn't been much information coming out of Barbados since the storm hit. Now that's a small nation of just a few thousand people, or a small island community. But it gets very dangerous and deadly whenever these storms get halted above the locations.
Someone's asking if they should evacuate from the area. I would say, yeah, why not? If you can get out of there in time, if you have a boat fast enough to beat the hurricane, go for it. I'd get out of there if I could, but I'm not sure that you're going to be able to evacuate.
Yeah, these hurricanes are moving at hundreds of miles an hour, and I would not risk going out on a boat, especially the chances of getting caught out into the open ocean with swells from a hurricane that's going over 185 miles per hour. Now, Hurricane Irma is still at a Category 5 level. It's suspected to degrade to a Category 4 whenever it hits the coast of Florida on Saturday morning. But if it does just blow through, there's chances that it will not be as damaging as Hurricane Harvey, even though this storm has been classified as one of the strongest storms in recorded history, but that is based on wind speed. And
one thing I'm reminded of too when I see this stuff is I'm reminded of we did a show about a year ago about all these people were having these dreams, these same dreams of a water wall, basically like a typhoon. I guess it's called a typhoon. I can't remember exactly what I'm looking at, but like a tidal wave hitting the East Coast in Florida. And I can't help but think of that when I see this. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I can't help but actually think of that, those dreams that these people were having when I hear it. And there was hundreds of people that had these dreams, and we had a call-in show, and tons of people were doing it. We gathered like testimonies from 20 some odd people.
huracanes dentro de la casa y uno afuera. Ya, no se ve ni el conqui de ver, ni el conqui que de aquí se ve. Pero se está viendo el Fray Alberto, los focos un poco, los postes.
Wow. So apparently, because of these solar flares that are coming down, there is a possibility that in our latitude, we could possibly see the northern lights in our area.
That would be amazing. I've always wanted to see those.
Now, Chris. See this link. So Hurricane Irma, the sun unleashes the most powerful category of solar flare, prompting fear of communication chaos. And you can see Hurricane Irma coming in. Now it says, the sun has unleashed the most powerful category of solar flare, potentially disrupting communications as Hurricane Irma wreaks havoc and destruction across the Atlantic. The sudden blast of energy was sent out by the sun and could interfere with radio and satellite communications as it passes the Earth. The flare was the strongest in a decade, blasted out from a sunspot on the Earth's surface. It belongs to the X class of flares, the most powerful possible. So the energy of the flare has knocked out radio communications on Earth, and it led to a wide area of blackouts, loss of contact for up to over an hour, the sunlit side of Earth, and hit systems that are used for navigations. The large flare was actually the second of two major blasts that came out of the sun, and it has been the biggest since 2015, but was followed by an X.93 blast of the kind that hasn't been since 2006. A solar flare is a sudden flash of brightness on the sun's surface, which can throw out huge amounts of energy. They happen when charged up particles inside the sun twist up against the sun's plasma, charging themselves and then spewing out energy. So this is just insane. I can only imagine how this is going to influence the weather that we see off the Gulf of Mexico.
Tranquiliza.
Videos are freezing up.
I think a lot of the videos from that area are freezing up. Let me look and see what else I can find over here. There's one right here. This is pretty good. This is on the southeastern tip of Puerto Rico. So we're going to get back to that here as soon as we can get to the... There we go, Jake. I just sent you that. You might have too many windows open there. It looks like you got quite a few. Trying to get this back up on. We're losing a little bit of signal here at this point. Close down some of your windows there, Jake, too. You got quite a few open to be wireless. There you go.
Sí, Jamiro, yo sé, hacho, para ahí tiene que estar durito porque eso es alto ahí. La orquesta completa, Dito. Era ese canto ahí. Oye, pero todavía no se ha caído ningún palo. Ni una antenita. A la que se caiga un palo, yo entro para adentro y dejo de grabar. A la que yo veo un cartelcín volando. Ver el poste cómo se mueve, ver el poste. Y allá, esto es en directo.
This video is from the southernmost tip of Puerto Rico, southeast tip.
Entró la banda, era con esto, la abuela banda, como dice Anuel. A ver cómo se ve para acá atrás.
And yes, we're getting this footage from the areas of Puerto Rico. We're getting as many different kinds of footage as we can. We're trying to compile footage of the area to see what is actually going on. So it's not just one stream, it's several different streams we're looking at to see where the most devastation is lying. Yet obviously there's going to be less ability to live stream the worse that it gets, and we can only see about 10 live streams coming from Puerto Rico at the moment, and some of them are less devastating as others. Obviously this one on the southern southeastern tip of Puerto Rico, which is actually at the very bottom of Puerto Rico, looks pretty rough, as you can still see. I mean, if that's a storm coming in our area, I've seen storms similar in speed, you know, up on the hill that I live on, but this would be something to be very scared of, because this could literally rip all your house apart. There's this pretty guy out there with his shirt off, letting the wind hit him and probably getting his phone soaking wet. But I'm glad he's streaming and letting us see what is actually going on out here.
Now some more information that our friend Christopher is sending over about this solar flare and the influence it's going to have on communications is they're predicting very likely that this solar flare that happened earlier today, which is the strongest that has been recorded in the past 10 to 15 years. It's an X-class solar flare, an X 9.3 solar flare, and within the next 6 to 8 hours, it's going to be influencing communications in the disaster zones. It's also predicted that in our latitude up here in Kentucky, we might very possibly be able to see the Aurora Borealis show up in the sky this evening. So if you are up in the northern latitudes of the United States, go look out during tonight and look up and see if you can see any space phenomenon happening because of these solar flares. Now, there's no telling what influence this is going to have on this weather. These solar flares, solar activity has been linked to the strength of storms, and also has been linked to seismic activity. And whenever we see the correlation between the activity of the sun and these natural events, these weather occurrences, it's just very interesting to see what might play out as we see that not only has Hurricane Irma been classified as the strongest hurricane, but it's also the strongest hurricane in terms of speed, but it's very interesting to see how this solar flare is going to influence the strength of this storm as it nears Florida's coastline.
Right now, as this is going through Puerto Rico, northern states of emergency have been declared in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, where they're bracing for this storm. as of 2 p.m., the Category 5 storm was passing over northmost Virgin Islands. And so it's 90 miles east of San Juan, Puerto Rico at 2 p.m. So we're rounding 3 p.m. depending on if this is Eastern Standard Time. So it looks like we are an hour, almost 2 hours into when it was hitting Puerto Rico. So this is why we were seeing. So some of those radars are behind. The storm's about 450 miles wide, and it's been sustaining winds of 180 miles per hour. It's supposed to be in Florida by late Saturday afternoon. So, guys, we're going to end the stream for right now. Looks like a lot of the worst of it has hit Puerto Rico, and so we will, as time goes by, if we see more live streams that are showing this devastation, we'll pick up later. But as of right now, we're going to have to cut it out. We have record today as well as live shows coming up this evening. So if you haven't subscribed, we're going to be talking about tonight with Stephen Pigeon at 8 p.m. about current events that are happening, political, obviously weather, different things that are going on in the world, and talking about Bible prophecy, etc. And so it'll be an interesting show, to say the least. And so we will talk to you guys later, and we're signing out right now. This is John Pounders, and we would had Jake Grant with us. And
yeah, and also, guys, with that information, we heard about the strongest solar flare within the past decade happening today. This happening on top of Hurricane Irma being classified as the strongest hurricane in terms of wind speed, well over 185 miles per hour. We see a lot of events kind of dominoing one on top of the other. We see Hurricane Harvey and the destruction of Houston, and something to check out.